let me shift gears now, and
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about the life and the legacy of former President Jimmy Carter as the nation prepares to say its final goodbyes. Presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin is joining us now to talk more about his legacy. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yes.
So Doris, you know that state funerals are often very, very rare, and they're reserved for the most revered of individuals. Can you remind our viewers why this event, state funerals, holds so much significance?
Yeah, I'm really glad that Jimmy Carter chose to have a full state funeral. They don't all do so. I mean, Truman decided to just have a very private ceremony, really, back in Independence, Missouri. It's up to them. But it provides a ritual for us. We've allowed ourselves for the last 4 or 5 days to be able to listen to stories about his life. For me, as a biographer, just listening to my fellow biographers talk about so much that I didn't know was a real great tribute at a time when history is being diminished in high school. So all of that is great. The interesting thing is that he had 100 years to prepare for this. You know, presidents nowadays, when they do want a state funeral, there's a 600-page document. They have to go through all the details. They can change it. They sort of are asked as soon as they start their presidency, prepare for your funeral, a rather weird task. But of course, we've had moments in time when people didn't have time to prepare, and that was true for Jack Kennedy. When he died at 46, they had made no plans for his funeral. So Jackie really was responsible, even from Texas, and she's only 34 years old. She's calling in the instructions that she wants him to be laid in the East Room in the exact way that Lincoln was laid there so many years before. They had to rush around and get a magazine that showed a picture of what it was. She wanted him to be in the Capitol Rotunda. The first time that anyone had ever laid there was Abraham Lincoln, and she wanted a horse-drawn caisson to take to the church. And then, of course, she added her own touches, an eternal flame that would be on the grave, which they put together just at that last moment, and to have little John be trained to salute the casket.
Yeah,
these moments are memorable in our history.
Doris. We all remember that moment of little John saluting his dad. But let's put in perspective about Jimmy Carter, because it seems, as we've been hearing about his life this last week or so, put in perspective Jimmy Carter as a man and as a president, because I think many people consider his life after the presidency almost more important than the life that he had while he was in the White House. How will history judge him as a president, and how will history judge him now that he is no longer with us and his post-career after the presidency?
You know, I think it's a great question to say that I think for most people, the post-presidency is so clearly consequential that it's overshadowed what he did as president. But I think the most important thing he did as president was to be a visionary. And visionaries are never really respected in their own time. When he called for cutting down thermostats because of the energy crisis, he was ridiculed. Now, of course, we know the climate crisis is so important, which we didn't realize then. That's put in greater perspective. When he set aside millions of acres of land in Alaska for public parks. A lot of people in Alaska felt he was overreaching into the federal government, into the state. He was burned in effigy and made fun of. And now, of course, those public parks have produced millions of tourists coming to Alaska and helping to preserve the land as well. And at the same time, when he decided to meet with Sadat and Begin in Camp David, his advisor said, "This is crazy. A president can't negotiate a peace treaty like that. He'll probably fail and be made a scapegoat." But he insisted he wanted to do it, and that has lasted for 25 years or more. So I think his visionary sense will be, you know, he can't change what he did in the presidency, but we can change the perception of what was important about that. And I think what's told us in this whole week, as we've been talking about, so much he did was so important and consequential, more than we realized at the time.
And seemed to be a man of great character and integrity. A lot of people are making comparisons to Jimmy Carter and other presidents who have sat in the White House, that it's a very different time.
Yeah, you know, in so many ways, I think the person he was, who he was, is as important as what he did. I mean, you think about his fundamental decency, his compassion, his kindness, his empathy, his humility. These are the qualities that make up character. It's what we want in our kids. It's what we want our teachers to teach their students. It's what we want in our leaders, absolutely.
And the nation will say goodbye to President Carter today. Doris Kearns Goodwin, thank you very much for sharing this moment with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me do this.
And we will bring you the departure ceremony from the Capitol and the state funeral for President Carter in a CBS News special report. That's at 9 Eastern here on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.